I don't know anything about this. Actually, never mind, we'll make it work. Listen carefully to this, people, because at some point in your mathematical lives, you have to start thinking. Did I push start on the video? Did I? I did. Red means it's recording, doesn't it?
Yes.
Geometric. At some point in your life, you have to start thinking like math people and talking like math people. So math people like to overcomplicate things, and that's where this comes in. We are going to write down the formulas for a square, for a, oh boy. Now she wants to move. A square, a rectangle, parallelogram, and triangle. Rectangle, parallelogram, and a triangle. Did I say that? Mm-hmm. And we're writing down the formulas to find the perimeter and the area. So we'll do this little semi-chart kind of thing here. Okay, so let's say you have a square. Okay, I've got a square. You know that every side is the same, right? I mean, let's put numbers in there just to see. If each one was a 5, you know that the perimeter is what? I know that's hard. Think about it for a little while. Don't jump right into the answers. The answer is what, Caleb? 20. Now, how did you find that out? Okay, multiplied by 4. That's a good answer. You could say s plus s plus s plus s, but that gets to be a little wordy. And instead of the number 5, we're just going to put the letter s, because s in math right now will stand for side. So the perimeter of a square is 4s. That would be your formula for that. And the area of a square, how do you find the area of a square? Well, it's length times width, but we're not using those L letters, we're using S and S. What is, find the area of that using S's, you would say, I know it's 25, but we're using S's, not numbers now. What would you write down, Taylor?
Area equals S times S.
Right, but instead of S times S, the more mathematical way to say S times S is? Anybody? Logan?
S dot S.
No, it's Brooke?
S squared.
S squared. S squared means S times S. You try to use as few letters as possible. Okay? Now, let's erase our little square. And look at what a rectangle is. Because this is where the thought process comes in. If you have a rectangle, let's put numbers in and think about what we do. Let's say this is 5 and this is 8, and this is 5 and this is 8. If I was asking you to find the perimeter of a rectangle, how would you find that? You would add 5 plus 5 plus 8 plus 8, right? Well, what if I take away the numbers and put letters in it? And when we talk about rectangles, what do we call this? We don't call them sides anymore. We usually call it the width and the length. So instead of having 5 plus 5 plus 8 plus 8, I have W plus L plus L. But that's still not as easy as it goes. And a different way to say that would be, just like I did here, instead of saying S plus S plus S plus S, I did 4S. Well, for the perimeter of a rectangle, I don't have 4 S's, but I have 2 W's plus 2 L's. You get that? Because 2 times the width plus 2 times the length gives you the whole perimeter of the thing. And we already know the area of a rectangle, it is just, you can't get any easier than length times width. Yeah? Oh boy. Now, a new one. What about a parallelogram? What am I looking for? Difference between a rectangle and a parallelogram is, and this one gets a little, oops, sorry. This one gets a little goofier too. A parallelogram usually looks like this. When we find area of parallelograms, what also did we need? Not only do we need the 4 sides, but we also need, well, we don't need 4 sides, but remember, in order to find an area of parallelogram, you have to have that one line that forms
Height.
the height. Okay, so labeling this, we have the base, we have the height, and then these over here they call the sides. So if I was giving the formula for the area of a parallelogram, we already have, the perimeter of a parallelogram, what do you suppose that would be? Remember, perimeter doesn't include the middle, it's just around the outside. How is the perimeter of the parallelogram different than the rectangle? Ryan, it is?
2 times side.
Like
Plus
2 S's plus 2 B's, right?
Mhm.
And then the area we already talked about is, what is the area of a parallelogram, do you remember? Base times height. Correct? Now, with a triangle, young people, with a triangle, here's kind of a goofy thing about a triangle. We need this to work for all triangles, so we're not going to use a specific equilateral triangle or an isosceles triangle, we're just going to use a generic triangle like this, one that doesn't have any equal sides. Okay? What do you suppose, how do you suppose they label the sides of a triangle? And here's something, your introduction to a newer concept in math there. We do call all these, we call them all sides, right? The triangle has 3 sides, correct? But I can't call them all S's. Why? Because they're not the same length. We have to use the same letter to mean the same length. So in math, when you have the same thing but different same things, they use what they call subscripts. Okay? An exponent is a superscript. It goes above. A subscript actually goes below. So when you have a triangle, what they do is they say, well, these all 3 are sides, but to show that they can be different, they put a little subscript, side 1, side 2, side 3. Okay? That just says it tells you they're sides, but they're different because they have that little subscript there. Okay, you don't use those numbers to calculate anything. You don't add them together. They're just ways to show 3 different sides. So there is no way to shorten the perimeter of a triangle than to say that it is side 1 plus side 2. Wow, where this thing's going here. Side 1 plus side 2 plus side 3. That's really the best you can do with a triangle. Now there will be some times when it happens that 2 of those will be the same if it's an isosceles triangle, but you can't change. Your formula has to work for every triangle. So you have to make it generic as can be. And we already know the formula for the area of a triangle, because I probably should have put it up here. You definitely need to put this height up there, and 1 would have to be the base. Because a triangle is 1/2 base times height. The one that most people always seem to forget. What do you think about that? What's that?
A good lesson.
So it's good to tell the math teacher that. Example. Well, turn to page 476. Let's just look at one. I don't want to beat the proverbial horse here. Look at letter A, it says write the formula for the area of a rectangle, then substitute 8 centimeters for the length and 5 centimeters for the width. Solve the equation to find the area of the rectangle. So what should that look like on your paper? Well, first of all, they said to write the formula for the area of the rectangle, which is what, Brooke Column? They say area of the perimeter. What does it say? The area of a rectangle. What is the area of a rectangle, Brooke? Right, area equals length times width, and then it said to substitute in 8 for the length and 5 for the width. So really yours should look like this. Area equals 8, and there's a bunch of different ways to show multiplication. What different ways can you show multiplication? You could do this, 8 times 5, or you could say area equals 8.5, or you could say area equals 8 parentheses 5. All mean the same thing. Usually, when you get to this higher level math, which you guys are going to start getting, did I mention next year's going to be really hard?
Yes.
This is my preferred way. So it might be good for you to start thinking about that. And area equals 40, whatever it is, centimeters squared. Just because it'll help us a little later on. So, okay, that's enough. I'm done.